today I'm pleased to have Silvia Schwarte, who's a friend and a very interesting photographer that lives in the region of Geneva. Some people have seen your work in the different exhibitions you've already had, and you also were the winner of the first contest for the PhotoGenève Festival in 2020, I believe. I will almost directly go to the question from those dialogues, which is why photography? Why has photography taken that part in your life?
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much, Tristan, for the warm welcome and also for inviting me to this podcast. I'm very pleased to be here with you today. And yeah, actually, how do I best answer that question? I think my journey towards photography is like a long journey in different phases. And actually, I would describe myself as an art-loving soul who has traveled from being a frustrated painter to becoming a passionate photographer, actually. And so I got my first camera already at the age of 10. It was a gift by my uncle. And actually, at that time, I had this little black box in my hand and I had no clue about shutter speed and aperture, ISO, all of these things, and nobody around to be able to explain to me. So I continued with painting. But then eventually, when I studied in Berlin, I bump into this bookshop and I stumble into one of these nice photo books from Edward Weston. And you probably know this pepper, which obviously is a pepper, but at the same time, you can see a person in it. And so that re-sparked my interest. And I bought a couple of books to actually approach photography in an autodidact way. And eventually I end up in Berlin as well, in the darkroom, developing the films, playing with the chemicals, doing the enlargements. And it was quite an interesting thing that fascinated me a lot, to be honest. And at that time, I was not digital, obviously. I was going the
analog way.
The analog way, exactly, yeah.
It's interesting because I was looking at your website and the first words you have on your website is aligning mind, eye, and heart.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about the process of photography, you say it's a passion, first of all. But would you say that aligning, you write align mind, eye, and heart through photography, that you can align your mind, eye, and sight, or is it only one of the ways for you to do so?
Photography is so much more than just clicking a button. It's like really you observe a situation, you see what's interesting there, what sparks your interest, what makes it become interesting for yourself. And then, I mean, if you really go beyond, you also want to express a message when you take a picture. You want to capture a mood, a situation, a feeling, something graphic, I don't know, something abstract. It depends on where you are, what you do. And so I think that very much describes what is photography for me, because you really have to focus on it and all the senses are used for it. I think there has to be something like the decisive moment in an image to make it work in a way. So at least for me, I mean, there's people who don't, who just shoot but something needs to be there that makes an image worth being taken for me. So maybe just purely aesthetic or abstract, but there needs to be something extra in an image.
I know you print real photographies in the form of 2D prints, but you also like working with 3D objects. Is it for you a way, you were saying, capturing the moment, but also you're sharing it? Is it for you a way to be closer to reality by doing so, or is it something else?
No, actually, yeah. I mean, this way of printing on paper, it's a super nice thing, particularly these old photographs with the grainy textures and stuff. But what I maybe not dislike, but what I want to change with this approach is that you cannot reproduce one image a million times, because I also, as I said, I'm a frustrated painter and painting is generally unique. And I want to transmit this kind of uniqueness also to a photographic work. And this is why I try to make it more like an art object. And definitely, I have, for example, printed on brushed aluminium and put it in a 3D object, making it a Leporello. And when you move from one side of the object, which is like 1 meter width, and when you move from one side to the other, the light sparks and there is reflections. And actually, this is something that super interests me because this makes it more vivid, more alive. And that's something where as you say, I mean, this is something where you make it more the reality as when you look through the shutter.
What I find really interesting in your work is, as maybe you kind of implied before, you go in many different styles. It goes really from abstract to very figurative photographs. How do you see the stories you tell in those photographs? Why do you press the button at that instant, and what makes you want to share those?
Yeah. So again, here it's probably my approach, my journey towards photography as well. It's like I never wanted to limit myself to just being a portrait photographer, architecture, nature, whatever. So I was curious enough to just explore each and everything. And I didn't want to limit myself consciously. And this is why I have explored light, reflections, maybe still lives, but also I tried to work with movement and with blurry, all of these things. And I think this is a process of evolving in the photography because this was the beginning and the state where I'm at now. And what you describe is actually something that I want to move towards. I want to move away from having a single image or a mini series, and I want to really more work on storytelling, on making a project, on having something that is coherent in terms of a work. So I think that's my journey from being very broad and now narrowing down to actually see what is my identity as a photographer, where do I want to go, and so I think it's like a good moment for me of stock taking and then redefining where I want to go. And this is maybe explains a little bit also the different types of photographies that are on my webpage or on my Instagram page. And so that shows a little bit the range of what sparks my interest and what I find interesting.
Yeah, so you're really going towards finding that identity and making it, crystallizing it more.
Yeah.
How important do you think the process until now was in your life? In that term, in terms of you as a human being, your human identity, do you think photography had a big impact?
I think it's a journey of self-discovery as well. So what do you find interesting? Why spark certain things your interest, or why don't others? And what is important for you actually? And I mean, one of the projects I'm working on already for quite some time, a couple of years, is just evolving from the fact that I'm an expat. I'm not living in my home country anymore. And so it's like, what is home? Where are your roots? And that certainly is much more than photography. It's more like a, maybe philosophical approach or psychological approach. And so, as I said, I mean, this whole photography thing in my life is like a journey. I start with the very simple things, and I notice that I'm going a bit more complex now. And not only in terms of maybe stylistic means, but also in terms of what do I want to express with my photography.
One thing you were talking about, photography being a passion, has it always stayed that way, or?
Yeah, so that's what I meant before. It has been a journey for me, and actually it sometimes waves and it can take years until I next time pick up the camera. But since I moved to Geneva, I have actually taken it much more serious, and I have taken some classes. I'm trying to reshape my style, and I have participated in exhibitions, as you said. I have won some prizes, including the PhotoGenève Festival, but I'm also involved in an exhibition of the UN where I won the first prize, the Public Choice Award. And so, I mean, I'm trying to explore those different things and
to get out to some public.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, I'm taking it more serious now since I moved to Geneva, and definitely it depends on the phase of your life where you're in. And I also think that I'm very much working in a very well-defined and well-structured environment professionally. And so photography permits me to use the other half of my brain, and it balances out. And depending on how much stress I have or not, I do more or less work. But also I see it as a bit of going out of this box and taking the liberty of just doing what I like, and using it as such. And when I notice I get stressed, then it can easily happen that I just drop the camera for a little while.
Yeah. So it's definitely an escape route for your imagination. Yeah.
No, it should definitely stay that way. And I don't shoot because someone might like an image or not. It's really like I still take the liberty to explore. And actually, what you in the context of the PhotoGenève Festival competition chose as a winning image, I always liked that. I always loved actually that image, particularly the one with the green woman moving into this empty space. And that was an experiment that I had at that time, where I worked with multiple exposure of the same negative, so to speak. And as I said, I always loved it, but many people whom I showed this image, it was like, oh no, this is nothing. This is they didn't like it. And when you were even choosing it as winning image, I was like, yay.
The picture is actually on your Instagram page, so I would push listeners to go and check it out. But maybe you can describe this picture you're talking about a little bit more.
Yeah, so it's like ghosty appearing woman who moves from the left side of the image to the right side. There is a huge empty space also in this image, but I was pushing the button 5 times to have this multiple exposure, and this makes it a little ghosty experience from a woman moving. And so
we see her kind of floating from the left side of the image to the right.
The other winning images, for example, they originated from me playing with a flash at twilight. And so I was walking through the town and then flashed this image of the poor lady with the dog. That's the first picture I thought of when you first before you described it. But maybe you want to. Do you have something currently going on in your photographic world, or something you've discovered that you might want to talk about? I mean, apart from shooting and continuing the photographic work and experimenting with the different means of printing it in a more unique way, or making it an art object, I do want to pursue this project work to give more message or meaning to the images that I'm creating. I want to explore the storytelling line. And I'm learning much more about the Geneva photo world over the last couple of months, and I'm very happy to be also connected with this Geneva Photo Festival set up. It's a very interesting project, which I very much like, and I get to know galleries, I get to know museums, and I'm much more interested now in this kind of photo competition world with the different festivals, with the different competitions. And so, I mean, at least I want to explore and get deeper involved in it. And obviously, I also continue my work in the United Nations photography group. And I'm a committee member there, and we will definitely go for further exhibitions that we already had, and we'll continue like this in the future. So, I mean, it's not only limited to the shooting process and the printing process anymore, but learning a bit more about the whole photographic circle. Let's say.
Yeah. I will also put the link to the UN Photo Club for people to discover it in your description. Okay. But I thank you so much for this short dialogue, and so catch you next time. Bye bye.
Thank you very much, Tristan. Take care. Bye.